Oh, Lord. Sit and wait it out. Okay. I just had something quick on my mind. Okay, about alternative housing. I just want to get the word out there. In a lot of places, the zoning is not the friend of alternative housing. Tents, RVs, yurts, teepees, vans, motorhomes, anything that's an alternative housing. A lot of places and a lot of situations want to restrict and limit how a person lives or if a person can live in alternative housing. Alternative dwellings. I've been looking at tents. Some people actually live in tents full time. I've got a big tent that's a big canvas tent. And I might put it up. That might be some good content. This tent is from the 60s. My dad had this tent when he was a teenager. So it goes back to like 1967 at least. And it's got some holes in it. And the story behind this tent. It's an army style tent. Hey there, Seal Hater. How are you? Thank you, Seal Hater. I wish you a happy holidays too. This tent, you can stand up in the middle. It's 6 foot by 10 foot. Cool. This tent is 6 foot by 10 foot. And it's 10 foot long, 6 foot wide, and it's 6 foot high in the middle of the tent. So it's a canvas tent. Big army green canvas tent that you can stand up in. It's an old military. It's called a wall tent. It's called a wall tent is what it's called. Like a cabin. It's like 4 foot high on the sides and 6 foot high in the middle. You have a big ridge pole, and I made this ridge pole with 2 pieces that come down that unfolds inside the tent. My dad had it when he was a teenager. They camped in it. I think it was like a Sears brand tent or something. Whatever it is, it's an old tent. No, that's for sure. And the story of it, my grandparents had a lot of had a big, like a big miniature farm. Hoop tents. What are hoop tents? I'll have to look those up. But basically, my granddad built a whole lot of sheds on his property. This tent that my dad had was in the back of the property in one of those sheds. And they had a big pen in the backyard. Oh, Army. Oh, cool. That's pretty cool. That's really neat. But the tent was in the back and they were cleaning stuff out. And they have a fenced enclosure where they used to burn their garbage out in the country. And so they had this tent and they threw it in the garbage bin, the big little fenced in area that's like 10 foot. It's maybe 6 foot by 6 foot square. Just big enough to burn garbage. And the tent was infested with ants. Yeah, it was infested with ants, and it had some holes in it. And they might have been fire ants. I got me a couple of big cans of Raid and ant spray. And I got that tent out of that garbage bin where they were going to burn the garbage. I got that tent out of there. And I saved it, and it was crawling with ants. It was absolutely infested with ants. So I killed all the ants. I got rid of all the ants. Got rid of every last ant in that tent. And I killed all the ants, and I saved the tent. Now, it's got some holes in it where the mice and ants have eaten into the tent, but it's a canvas tent. And I think I can, fix it and finish patching all the holes and get some epoxy, put some epoxy around the patches of the tent and seal it up with epoxy around the patches. And then I can get myself like what they call a fly, like a canvas tarp. Get a big canvas tarp and put over it. The tent's 6'10", it's big enough to stay in. Get a tent stove, wood burning tent stove. That would be pretty cool. The canvas tents, they say, are the best kind of camp in the wintertime. It was in a canvas tent. There's a brand called Wilderness Tents. And they have an 8x10 tent that's like the one I got. And this one, the one I have, is just like the Wilderness tent. It's an 8x10, 8 foot wide, 10 feet long wall tent. And that's what I got. This what this is a wall tent. But with all of your tent framework, this has the framework with it. An internal frame structure with rafters in the tent, like metal poles, aluminum poles, that the tent, you put them inside the tent and put up the tent. There's something else called a bell tent. The bell tent, I believe, is easier to put up, but if you set up a tent to live in it all the time, you have your, like a platform, like a wooden deck, and you build a wooden deck and put your tent on a wooden platform. You put your tent on the wooden platform. You raise it up off the ground, and then you can put your rug in the tent, oriental rug, some cots, Yeah, that sounds really good. But one thing is, big government is not good. Because it's not good. We don't need big government to, the zoning, county zoning and planning. To zone out all the little guys, all the people that want to do what they call off-grid homesteading. People that want to do homesteading. Off-grid homesteading. Building codes and all these things are good, but off-grid, we need to have a place that's zoned for off-grid homesteaders and alternative dwelling where it's okay for people to live in their vans, RVs, yurts, tents, things like that. Yurts, tents, vans, teepees, and maybe sign a waiver. You can sign a waiver with the county that says you can't sue anybody. You can't sue anybody if you get killed and burned down in a fire. Something that's away from houses, away from people, and away from houses. A place where you can have your alternative dwellings. Sheds, houses. Government sucks. Yeah, exactly. Are you Indian? No, I'm not. Well, I have one Indian ancestor, one Native American ancestor that was Cherokee. I have a Native American Cherokee ancestor. Do I look like I could have Native American in me? I don't know if I do or not. But yeah, I have an ancestor like my great-grandmother. Great-great-grandmother. Great-great-great. Maybe my fourth or fifth great-grandmother. Maybe my fifth great-grandmother was a Cherokee Indian. I think maybe my fifth great-grandmother was a Cherokee. But, the daughter was half Native American. And she would sit on the porch and smoke a corncob pipe. She would smoke a corncob pipe and sit on the porch, is what she would do. Oh, that's okay. That's fine. And my granddad looked a little bit more like the Native American because the descendant of the Native American great-grandmother, because he had cheekbones. My granddad had the cheekbones. And the cheekbones make you look a little bit more like a Native American with the cheekbones. defined cheekbones and black hair, black hair and stuff like that. And so those are the things, just need a place. We need places in every state, places that are zoned as free zoning area, places where you can have alternative housing to protect the rights of people who want to live indigenously. Some people want to live indigenously. Some people might want to go back to their roots, to the Native American roots, and live like a Native American and live in a teepee. Somebody might want to go back to that and live indigenously. That is some people's heritage, of their racial heritage. And to take that away and force them to live in a way they don't want to live, they should have the right to live indigenously, off grid, homesteading, and all these things. We don't, everyone should have the right to live the way they want to. And, building codes are good for safety, but if you can get a place that's zoned away, far enough away from other houses to where it's not dangerous, maybe a place where you're not going to burn down the forest, just maybe a clearing or something, place where you can live in your alternative housing. Just to protect the rights of these people and have places that are zoned for it. We have zoning for agriculture, residential, business, we have zoning for different kinds of zoning. But we also need zoning that's free zoning for alternative housing, and we need to get the word out that the zoning, we need to have places that are zoned for, you know, alternative housing and for structures that are code-free structures, whether it's a building or a shed or a tiny house or an RV, code-free buildings and alternative housing. We need to have places that are zoned for that. We need that. We need to get the word out and have places that are zoned for alternative housing and code-free structures. Yeah, we just don't need the things to become so strict that they tell you you're not allowed to live in your tiny house, you're not allowed to live in your RV, you're not allowed to live in your tent more than 6 months of the year, you're not allowed to live in a code-free structure. Code-free structures are buildings that are not built up to codes. There are people that build tree houses and all kinds of crazy structures to live in. And it's creative. There's a man that I read about online. And it's an article about this guy. It was a YouTube video about this guy. And this guy built something like a hobbit house. And it's underground. It's half underground like a hobbit house. And it's really, really cool. The half underground hobbit house built in the side of a hill like a hobbit house. And it's really, really cool. And these people are artists and they're creative. And they want to live on $500 a month. A person has the right to do that if they want to. We need these code-free areas that are zoned for code-free structures and buildings that are not up to any kind of code, zoning for code-free structures and alternative dwellings. We need all these areas where people in counties, states, to have places that are zoned for that, which is zoned for this sort of thing. We need that. That's very, very important for the freedom of certain people so that they can have a place to go, so they can set up their yurts, set up their tents, set up their teepees, set up their code-free sheds, code-free tiny houses. Tiny houses like Jay Schaefer lives in Sonoma County, California, close to where Rosie O'Kelly lives. He lives in Sebastopol. Jay Schaefer is considered the father of the tiny house movement. And last time I watched a video about him, he was living in a 70 square foot tiny house, a really little bitty tiny house. No kitchen, no bathroom, just a tiny 70 or 60 square foot tiny house. Just big enough for him to be able to have it. And it's just a tiny, tiny house in Sebastopol. And it is a dependent structure. A dependent structure is a structure that in a commune, you would have a main house in a commune. In a commune, you'd have a main house with a kitchen in the main house and a bath in the main house. So your kitchens and baths are in the main house. And then your little teepees or whatever are dependent structures, and you go and you sleep in those. Good night, seal hater. I'm a German underground. German underground. Oh, that's really cool, German underground. Now look up for that. Bushcraft. That's another thing I'll leave with you is bushcraft. I've been looking about the art of bushcraftery and people building stuff out of bushcraft in the woods, building structure, what they call the art of bushcraft in the woods, like cool little cabins and things. And so I'll let you go, Seal Hater, and I'll let everyone else go. I'm going to try to spread this around to other people to get them involved, to people that are free to live in their hobbit houses and code-free structures and their tents, yurts, bushcraft dwellings, and the bushcraft art of bushcraft, and things built at the sides of hills and everything. I'll catch you guys later. Remember, let's keep on fighting for freedom. Oh, okay. I'm gonna watch the Berg Show a little bit. This was just a really nice, you know, thing like that. But what do you think, Steel Hater? What do you think about that? I think that's a very necessary thing that we need to do. I've been looking at these tents, and there are people that have the off-grid tent setups. And I know there are you know states that are different, but I'm just starting to see that. I know that for the point of safety, for the point of safety, it's good that people have certain minimal standards for safety, but people need to have the freedom to do what they want to do and to live the way they want to live. People need to have freedom to choose to do what they want to do. I like need more, Johnny. Right? Yeah, you need more. Some people can live on more, some people can live with less, but basically, we don't want laws to get to the point to where people are squeezed out. Well, that's almost the thing of the individual mandate. The individual mandate was part of Obamacare, and you would have to pay a tax penalty if you didn't have health insurance. I can understand their point of view of having the individual mandate being unconstitutional because people need to have the choice of what you can't legislate commerce. Free going away, Joni. OST is crazy. Finally, way to go. OST way is crazy. Free going away. This is crazy. Oh, free going away? You mean like the free parking and boondocking on the streets? Cost is crazy? Cost is crazy. Maybe cost is crazy. Well, yeah, buying land is the way to go if you can find a place to park. If you can find a place to do the off-gridding, if you can find a place to be able to have a place free of all these codes so you can live in your tiny house, so you can live in your yurt. That's what I'm saying. They need to have places that are zoned for alternative housing, alternative dwellings, places that are zoned for alternative dwellings so people can do the off-grid thing, so they can do their homesteading. We need more places that are zoned for homesteading and alternative dwelling, and off-grid. Some places want to make it illegal to be off-grid. They want to force you to be a part of the system, pay into the system. But I think if you want to opt out of paying into the system, a person has the right to opt out of the system because that's freedom. That's American freedom, is the right to opt out of the system. That's the answer. Oops, I farted. Good to see you. Subscribe if you haven't. But that's my message tonight, is just about the freedom to opt out of the system, to quit your job, go live in the woods in a tent. If you want to do that and live off grid, or you want to buy a piece of land and live off grid and use an outhouse and build a bushcraft shelter and live that way and grow stuff in a garden in the woods, you can do that because, you know, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I've been watching this show on YouTube called The Ushanka Show, and his guy was raised in the Soviet Union. He was born and raised in the Soviet Union, and people sometimes that support communism. You're welcome. We'll go into Bergs. That's the whole point, is that in communism, they give you a job, they make you work. They think that everyone's equal in communism and you don't have to do anything. But, the guy in the Ushanka show, his name is Sergei Sputnikov. He said, you have 3 months to find a job. And if you're out of work more than 3 months, you are considered a parasite dwelling off of other people. They make you pay into the system. They make you work. You can't quit your job. You have an apartment assigned to you. You have a job assigned to you. You work at your job and you live in your apartment. You do it because they make you do it. That's what communism is. I know we all need health care, but communism is wrong. People need the freedom to do what they want to do. People need the freedom to make the choice. Quitting your job is a freedom. As an American, if you're miserable at your job, quit your job, because it's your fundamental right as an American to quit your job. It's the fundamental right as an American to be homeless. Homelessness is your fundamental right. It is your fundamental right to go off grid and to live apart from the economic system, to live free from the grid, to live off grid, to be able to separate from the system like Henry David Thoreau or Christopher Knight that went into the woods, or the Hermit of Gully Lake, which is um, Kitchener, Willard Kitchener McDonald. All these people, these hermits that went into the woods to live as hermits in the woods. There's even Russian hermits that live in the Russian woods in Russia. We have the right to walk away. We have the right to be hermits in the woods. We have the right to be off grid. We have the right to be homesteaders. We have the right to choose out of the system or choose into the system. The point is not that we want to try to get something for free. That's not the point. The point is we have the right to not pay into the grid. If we want to live this way, we have the right to make that choice. As Americans, we have the right to decide for ourselves what we want to do. That's what we want to do as American. Yeah. Well, as long as we have freedom, that's what matters. Is for our freedom to be able to choose our lifestyle and how we want to live. You know, I mean, it's like they come up with the law, a rule or something, that if it's an Apple phone, you don't have the right to repair the phone. Because it's an Apple phone, you don't have the right to repair it. But just like do not remove this tag off this mattress. If you own the property, if you own that phone, it's called the right to repair. Something about that they talked about with cell phones called the right to repair. Even though they made the product, if you in possession of that phone, you have the right to repair your phone. An RV may not. No wax toilet paper, yay. If that RV is yours, they say that RVs are not built to be lived in. They're built to be temporary seasonal housings. Of course, they're emergency housing for FEMA. For FEMA, it's an emergency housing. Some people are allowed to live in them for emergency. And if you're a homeless, that is an emergency. Emergency housing, temporary traveling, emergent recreational or emergency housing. The government, FEMA, and people, they have RVs as emergency housing. And if you're homeless, you need a place to stay. An RV is a good place to stay for emergency housing because you're homeless. But however, the right to repair is your RV. You own the RV. If you're in possession of that RV is in your name, titled in your name. Your RV, you own it. You have the right to live in your RV. You have the right to live in your shed. You have the right to live in a house without the certificate of occupancy. You have the right to reside because it's your property. Now certain places you may not be able to, but they need to have places that are zoned for alternative dwellings and for code-free structures. Okay, and the right to repair, right to live in your RV or property, the right to do what you want to with your property. Anyway, and things like that. Let's have our freedom as Americans. Let's take our freedom, have it, have the right to say we want to change the system in that way. Let the system be. Let the people be. And that's all I have on my mind. I'm going to go watch the birds for a little while. Thank you guys for watching.